possible to change things? Can I rise above the flood? Will the process cleanse my soul, or is it always in the blood?
Hello, I'd like to welcome everybody back to the In the Blood podcast. My name is AC Bergen-Fischer, and with me, as usual, is Jason the Dice Man Moore.
Hello, everybody.
Today's actually a special day because this is the first time we're doing a video episode in quite a long while. And it's also extra exciting because we've got a wonderful guest with us today. His name is Baba Sam Shelley. Sam, welcome to the show.
Great. Thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here today. So Lauren, looking forward to sharing my story out there, that it's important that we're not stuck with our situation or conditions.
Well, you gave a little bit of teaser there. I can't just let that dangle. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for me, I was basically sick and disabled for 38 years. At age 6, I was hit by a car. Then I went through high school as an undiagnosed bipolar. Then I had all these health issues from like migraines to psoriasis. Then eventually I lost the ability to walk from multiple sclerosis. I no longer have any of that because I got out of my head trash. All those mental stories that we have, those limitations, we need to go beyond all of that into our deeper essence of who we really are.
Okay, I feel like this is like right up Jason's alley because I mean he's kind of I'm like a skeptic. I'm really no fun when it comes to magical things. Jason, while also skeptical, I think is a lot more interested in the magical, the supernatural, the spiritual. So maybe I'll stop talking about that and just let him have some space to talk.
Okay, that's a change. All right, and for me, hello, Sam. Welcome to the show. So the first question I have to ask is, what was your first step? How did you find out, and what made you start to broach into the subject that, maybe I can get rid of this shit?
Well, actually, AC brought up a really great point of being a skeptic, because that's how it really started for me, was being a skeptic of this supernatural, the paranormal, that element. So when I had MS, multiple sclerosis, because I couldn't walk, I had a lot of difficulties with that. So I used to watch a lot of TV and I used to watch ghost hunting shows, but I'm like, well, that's TV. I don't know if it's real or fake. So I went on a ghost hunt. So I saw a tweet from a ghost hunter. It's like, okay, I'm going to go in this ghost hunt and we'll see what happens. For the first 15 minutes was really boring. Nothing was really happening. Then they put out the flashlight and they were asking the flashlight questions and it would go on and off. But I was like, well, that's their flashlight. I put out my flashlight. It did the same thing. But the thing that really got me, because I was sitting there on a bench, but I felt somebody sitting next to me that I could not see, but I literally felt somebody sit next to me, that I felt this overwhelming sense of dread come over me. Well, since I had multiple sclerosis, I was only at this ghost hunt for an hour. So I had these experiences like, okay, what did I experience here? Obviously, it's not scripted. I actually experienced this, that there is something out there that I can't see. What is this? So then I was reading books. Well, I heard like mediums talk to dead people. Let me read a book from a medium and see what this is about. Well, when I was reading this book, they talked about meditation, how to use meditation to get into their space. But what they mentioned with meditation was it brings inner peace. I'm like, that's it. I need inner peace. So I need meditation for inner peace because I was so stressed out, so overwhelmed with life, being sick for so long. I just wanted some peace. So I began a simple meditation practice, just 5 minutes a day. So basically, I thought meditation means you stop thinking. So the mind would start thinking. I'd be like, oh, stop thinking, mind thinking, stop thinking. Then I saw I was on this thought loop. Then I stopped myself and said, wait a second, I have thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts. If I'm not my thoughts, who am I? So I was sitting with that question one day, who am I? Then one day after meditation, I simply heard a voice say, perfect spirit. I'm like, that's it. My spirit is perfect. It's simply the body and mind that are damaged. Then I just had a sense that all is well and all sense of fear about my health was simply gone. I knew my health challenges were over at that point. And it took some time for the body to catch up, but yes, indeed, they were over. I never tried to heal myself. I simply wanted inner peace. So being a skeptic, you know, took me to that ghost hunt to have that direct experience. And through that direct experience, like, there's something out there, which led me to meditation, which led to the healing without trying to heal myself.
That is phenomenal.
I
What do you think
actually
about that, Ishi?
I'm actually like I'm impressed by a couple of things. One is how skepticism could lead you in this direction, and the other one is that normally I'm the one who gets asked a question and I'm the one who has a very, very verbose answer. And for once, I feel like I'm not the one with the most words. So thank you so much.
Well, I needed to explain a little bit because I just can't be really short with that. I want to explain the journey that I went through a little bit.
No, it's like fantastic though. I mean, it's I don't even know where to start. I mean, when it comes to the whole idea of like going on a ghost hunt and whatnot, I mean, Jason's throwing this in my lap, but I mean, we're talking about something that's right inside his wheelhouse. I mean, he's had ghost experiences within his home and whatnot. He's the believer. I'm kind of just more interested in the story surrounding the belief. So I don't want to take the magic away from it by splashing cold hard skepticism on this like interesting story that you're sharing.
See, I'm the
Yeah,
exact opposite. I want to dissect it. I want to find out what's going on, how it's going on.
yeah,
Well,
it's called the spontaneous healing. And when you look at it, it's called the spontaneous healing when you have that, that knowing, or maybe someone will call it a miracle. But it was really about getting in touch with that deeper essence of who we are, that we're all spirit or soul, whatever you wish to call it. But we get so trapped, like I was trapped in my identity. I have MS, I have bipolar, I have this disabilities. I had all these mental stories. But then I saw that I wasn't those stories. I am spirit having this human experience.
okay, so you'd mentioned being a skeptic prior to this experience. What would you say to somebody who hears this and says, "Well, this could just be explained by invoking the explanation that maybe this is the power of placebo"? Is there something beyond that for you?
Well, see, people initially thought I was in remission or something of that effect, but this has been now 12 plus years with no
Hmm.
doctors, no medicine, no cane. So it's not a remission, it's not whatever they wish to call it. It's something like a miracle that has no logical explanation that because last time I saw my neurologist, he questioned me for 45 minutes trying to quantify what I did. He couldn't understand it.
So, do you believe the body has? So, do you believe it was the spirit that used you, or do you believe you tapped into what the body can naturally do and amplified it and said, "Oh, okay, that's what's happening."
Yeah, I basically got my identity, my mind out of the way and let spirit, take over, I guess you could say, or let spirit lead the way. That I wasn't me trying to figure things out. It was this deeper essence within me. I just had this sense that all is well. Like there was no more fear about my health. It was
So,
really, yeah, the body healing itself.
I just want to qualify something. When you say spirit, are you talking in a religious connotation?
Now, I'm
Okay,
talking about the deeper essence, the one who sees through the eyes, the consciousness.
okay, fair enough. Thank you.
So basically, what like as we had a guest on last year, and he'd referred to our body as basically a meat suit, and spirit was whatever's living inside the meat suit. Would that be kind of an accurate analogy?
Yeah, like we're wearing this costume, right?
Okay.
Right. Okay. I just
And the way
needed to.
the way we can look at this too is that we had all these changing bodies throughout our life. What's that one thing that hasn't changed? Your awareness, your consciousness hasn't changed.
It's
That's what I'm
grown, but
talking
it
about.
hasn't changed.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, you just blew my skeptical mind with that question because I mean, yeah, it's true. Every cell in our bodies is different than the cells we were born with, is different than even like a couple years ago. There is that constant factor. So I mean, hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, it's really interesting because that's what was coming to me after I had. It's just this weird story is after I had that knowing that I was spirit. I received some pictures from my aunt in the mail randomly from my childhood, and it just brought the question like, wow, look at all these changing bodies that I had, but yet I'm still the same.
Mhm. What a cool outlook.
Yeah, it kind of it shines a light on a ongoing debate Jason and I have had for years. I mean, he very, very much believes that there's some part of us that's energy that's going to last after the body dies. I'm very much of the mindset that um our consciousness is a product of the physical brain. So when the physical brain is gone, well, then so goes the consciousness. I mean, you want to be the tie-breaking vote on that?
Yeah, it's all sort of like the chicken and the egg experiment to realize that consciousness comes first, then the body is created from consciousness. So the brain doesn't create consciousness, consciousness
Consciousness.
creates the brain.
Right.
Okay, well, I knew this was going to be an interesting conversation. I wasn't expecting it to be kind of like one that I found myself ill prepared for because normally I'm a person I can think on my feet. I know where I'm going conversationally, what the next step is going to be, and I'm sitting here thinking, well, fuck, now what?
Yeah, to realize that, we are spirit, we are consciousness that is creating this body. Because if you can look at all the near-death experiences and all those stories, the one common theme is that we are this consciousness
Mhm.
and that the body is contained within consciousness.
Mhm. It's not all hoo-hoo magic and mirrors. It's the power of positive thinking. It's using the conscious to allow the body to do what can naturally do.
Absolutely. That's what it
That's
is. Yeah,
why we shed skin cells, because after a certain amount of time they die and then they regenerate.
right.
Yeah.
With no effort on our part.
Right.
No, and I find it interesting the way you're framing all these experiences too, because um, whereas I'm not willing to take the leap and say, well, I'm on board with you as far as the whole spirit perspective. As Jason can attest, again, like I'm really no fun when it comes to this kind of stuff typically, but I had a really interesting experience last year. I had a young woman on, her name is Sarah Ty, and she's a tarot card reader, and she did a reading on me that was just so ridiculously accurate. I couldn't explain it away with any of my skepticism or logic. And what I was left with was thinking, well, there's obviously things going on that my tiny monkey brain can't quite wrap itself around. I'm guessing you probably bump up against people like me all the time, though. I'm looking at the look on your face, and it's like, okay, yeah, yeah, I know you.
Yeah, there are these people when I say I no longer have MS, they really look at me like I have two heads, but I really don't have MS anymore. All the tests will say I don't have MS anymore. That's just it's just one of those things, and we have to realize that we are consciousness, that we're not the body. So that's where it really wraps around. So when this tarot reader, the psychic, I also do that stuff as well because these abilities are here for all of us is that we are one stream of consciousness and different expressions of that one stream.
See, my personal belief, I don't necessarily agree with the term spirit. That's my personal opinion. That's
It's just a word.
the
It's
real
just a word.
reality.
It's spirit, soul, consciousness, awareness, whatever you
Energy,
want to call
whatever. Right. Um, but I also believe that we have, from our past experiences, the ability and the knowledge to shift the way we think. That's how we can become better people in general. To go further with that, and let me know if you agree with me. To go further than that, you can actually not only change your mental perception and the way you act in society, you can also change the way your body heals if you believe it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. The belief system is absolutely key to it because a lot of people that was saying with the MS will say, "Oh, I can never do that," and they'll just walk away. And there'll
Right.
be others that will have belief system, "Oh, really?" That are more open to it. It's really about how open we are with our belief systems. Some people are very rigid, and some people have that. For me, I needed that direct experience because my skeptical mind would have been that person that would have walked away saying, "No, that's impossible." I
Mhm.
had to have that person sitting next to me that I couldn't see, but I could definitely feel sitting next to me.
So I have a broader question. You um, have this phenomenal experience. You have this life altering physiological change.
Mhm.
And how do you feel? So for me, that seems like something that would open you up more to being one for everybody. But how do you feel that's helped you with oneness?
Yeah, so yeah, it was a very life-altering experience, and it's really my world is a little unusual today because I see the interconnection of all things, that there really is no separation. If we get into that quantum field, we can see all the entanglement that it is this one energy. So it's really just I'm just available for people that are out there that want help to go beyond all these limitations, that we can do some things to bring them back to who they really are. That I tell people that I don't know your recipe, I don't know your life. You are the one that's inhabiting your body. You know it the best. So it's really about getting that mind to relax of what you think you know and be open to new possibilities.
One of the things you'd mentioned a couple minutes ago that it really struck me was, when you talk to people about how, you effectively shed off your MS. Like this is no longer something that you carry within you. It's no longer part of your experience. And how other people come back and say, well, I could never do that. I find that when you go through life, it doesn't matter what the subject matter is. If you're dealing with something that somebody else doesn't know how to do, of course, it's going to look difficult or even impossible. Once you know how, and of course, it's going to seem a little bit more easy, it's going to definitely be possible. How do you convince somebody who's just stuck in that I can't mindset and get them to open up to the, well, maybe I can mindset?
Well, you can't unconvince someone. You simply cannot. If their belief system is so ingrained, then you can't convince somebody to change their opinion. It really doesn't work. They really have to come to that. In my own case, I had to have that direct experience.
Okay.
That's the only way, because you could have talked to me till you're blue in the face and I would have been, it's impossible. You can't, because I had heard these stories for 38 years that you're incurable, that you're stuck with this for the rest of your life. It becomes ingrained. I needed to have what's called a quantum shift to see that there is another possibility. And it was having that direct experience. So if you had somebody sitting next to me that you couldn't actually see, you say, wow, that's weird. And some people wouldn't have that curiosity. I had the curiosity to say, what did I experience? I'm sure a lot of people had experiences that night and said that, well, that was fun, and they just let it go. But for me, I had that curiosity. I think one of the biggest parts of it is, this person curious? Are they open to explore? If they're not curious and they don't not open to explore, there's nothing I can do.
So it's kind of like when you're raising your kids, and you try to teach them lessons, but sometimes you just got to go out and do it on their own and find it.
Yeah, they have to have the painful lessons at times. It's
Mhm.
like, oh, that's not really a great idea, but you'll see.
The cast is only on for 6 weeks. It's good.
Exactly. And sometimes they will have to need that experience that, yeah, they may need to get injured, hurt a little bit to realize, yeah, dad was right. Dad was right. That's not a good idea.
I kind of like hearing your approach to this whole thing because I wouldn't consider myself a spiritual person, though a lot of other people have described me that way. I think it just, I don't like getting hung up in the terminology. I see myself as being one way. If you want to label that spiritual, cool. But the way I would define spirituality, my only real experience with it has been framed in more of a religious context. Years ago, I was a devout Christian. I don't know if I was very, very good at it, but that was my experience anyways. And part of that experience of being a Christian was not just the need to share my experience, but also to kind of like beat other people over the head with it and say, no, 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 this is the right way to look at things. This is how you need to do it. So hearing you take a much more relaxed approach to just, well, if you're interested, I'm here. I'll talk to you. I can tell you about what's going on with me, but like you're not obligated to choke it down. Like what an enlightened approach.
Yeah, you can't force a person to have your opinion. It doesn't work. It just makes them angry at you. And I'm sure if you're trying to beat Christianity in somebody, they're going to be right angry at you.
Well, you can ask Jason. I tried doing that to him for years.
Yeah, I still got scars from the bat. Yeah.
And that's really what I say, that there are no rules. It's only what's right for you. Like I don't have a prescribed formula. You just got to find what's right for you. I can get you onto one possibility, but it's ultimately up to you when you're open to.
Well, it sounds
So,
like this whole, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Ishii.
I was going to say it sounds like this whole experience has been transformative in a couple of ways. I mean, of course, transforming your physical and mental health. I mean, these aren't small things. I mean, I'm a person who lives with an invisible disability. I'm a person who struggles with all kinds of mental and emotional things. I've got trauma responses out the yin yang. But I mean, beyond managing all of that stuff, it sounds like you've had a whole lifestyle shift. I mean, to go from whatever you were doing before this experience to being kind of like in, I don't want to say in the business of, but in the practice of helping other people heal, helping them to see effectively.
Right, because I really say we really want to focus on healing because we really want to just focus on knowing yourself. Most people don't know who they are. And we just start with this question like, who am I? If you ask most people, who am I? So, AC, if I asked you right now, who are you? What is your answer?
Well, I'm tempted to just to go with the knee-jerk reaction and give you my brief podcast bio, which wouldn't really be fair. I mean, the truth is, I think I'm a friend. I am a philosopher. I am a poet. I'm a musician. I'm a lover. I'm a fighter. I am a shit disturber. I'm a peacemaker. You know,
Right, but see, that's all mental concepts. It's a mental identity. It's not really who you are. And that's where most people are. They're in this mental identity of who they are. So the first step we need to identify is like, who are you really besides the mental identity, beyond the thoughts?
Well, see, and this is an interesting perspective you're bringing because I spent years getting myself to the point where I do have a mental identity and I'm not like defining myself in any other way. Can you explain why you're pushing back on that?
Because for my own case, I was so identified with my mental story. I am bipolar. I have migraines. I have MS. I can't walk. I need a cane. I had this really encased mental identity. And when I heard that voice reminding me, like when I realized I have thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts. I have a body, but I'm not my body. Because if we can be aware that we have thoughts and that we have a body, we are not our thoughts. We are not our body because we are the awareness of them. If you were the body, you wouldn't have awareness that you have a body.
It sounds a lot like addiction. Like we're addicted to this mental image. Like when somebody says, "Well, who are you?" I just say, "I am," because I'm not everything in 2 seconds from now that I am right now. Something's going to change. But it sounds like there's a lot of addictive qualities to this. People are so stuck on the mental fragmentation, all put together into one ball of being who I am, that you can't let go for it. And you're getting validation. You're getting your fix from other people validating what you are, who you are.
Right, right. It's
Would you agree
actually,
with
it
that?
is, yeah, it's like really like an addiction. And like I always used to say, break the habit of thought addiction. We're
Mhm.
attached to our thoughts as truth, and they're really not. They're just one perspective.
Yeah, I guess it would be different for everybody.
Right. It's like the great example of this is like a crime scene. Everybody sees something different. So what is true?
Mhm. Yeah, you'd
So
have to
it's
take little pieces from every conversation, put it together like a puzzle, and then you will get the true picture.
exactly right. And that's why the first step is just remembering who we really are, that you had all these changing bodies, all these changing stories about your life. But what is that one thing that hasn't changed?
I'm
Or
I'm I'm really in
or
a
finding who you are. Sorry.
I'm really in a conflicted space now. I mean, when you use this analogy of like, okay, well, your thoughts are just the one perspective. Like, I'm 100% on board with you there. right? Like if I have an experience that I can't explain, like I'll give you an example. When I was in my early 20s, I was living with my elderly grandmother after my grandfather had died. My grandmother had a heart condition that required her at times to take nitroglycerin tablets to keep from dropping dead, right? I was sound asleep elsewhere in the house, and I woke up not from a noise, but I just woke up because I felt a presence in the room with me. And when I opened my eyes, I saw my grandfather standing in the doorway who had been dead for several years, and he said, Your grandmother needs you." And I went to her room, and she was fumbling trying to get her pill bottle open silently, and I got her pills. Of course, the crisis was averted. And when she asked me how I knew to come to her, I told her, "Well, my grandfather told me." And she said, "Well, of course, he watches over me." Okay, fine. When I look back on that experience, I think, okay, well, there's a lot of things that I could use to explain that. Because after all, this is just like one person's experience. I mean, maybe it was a manifestation of my imagination. Maybe my hearing caught something subconsciously. Maybe a lot of things, but without having other perspectives to contrast mine with, I'm stuck with questioning my own thought pattern. But I mean, at the same time, it's like you get that, but you're landing in a wildly different place based on a similar train of logic and based on similar information.
Hmm. Yeah, life is pretty trippy.
Yeah, no doubt. Like and that's just such a perfect response to it. It's just like, eh?
Yeah, I've had so many wild experiences that the mind doesn't exp understand. It's just that's just life. We just don't know some things that are just not meant to be known. Like you can never explain your grandfather showing up. There's no logic to that, but in the spiritual realms, he's still here because we are energy. That energy cannot be destroyed, and we are that.
So see, knowing, so I agree with most of what you're saying, but I have to push back a bit because there are some things that I don't understand. There are so many people in the world with MS and other similar type issues. Now, this is just my experience, but you're the first person I've heard say, "Now it's gone." Not it's gone into remission, not it's downplayed, so I'm not affected by it as much. It's gone. I have a really hard time grasping the fact that that could just go away. Now, I'm not saying you're lying. I'm not putting any of those negative connotations on you. But what I am battling with is something that affected you for 38 years. You're making it sound like it didn't whittle off. It didn't like slowly come back. You're making it sound like immaculate conception. Just all of a sudden it was gone. Just like all of a sudden there was a baby here, according to Christian beliefs.
Right. So yeah, I can understand because this takes some. So once I know that, knowing that all is well and all sincere about my health, it took the body about 12 to 14 months to catch up to that reality. So it
Mhm.
took the body some time to catch up. But we have to realize that everything is energy. We get caught up into this world of matter, of form, but everything is energy. Everything can be transmuted in energy.
And to be fair, I suppose like even my skeptical mind has to acknowledge that it has been observed countless times. It's a well documented phenomena. Like to use for example, if you've got a person who's fighting a terminal illness, the person who believes they're going to get better statistically has a much better chance of recovery than the person just like, well, I guess I'm doomed. These people tend to drop dead pretty quickly. It does lend some credence to the idea that something internally within us, or even maybe between us, would have a hand in this healing or recovery process.
Yeah, because they do label it spontaneous healing. And there are thousands upon thousands of cases out there, spontaneous healing, that make no logical sense.
Maybe our logical senses are really out of whack.
Yeah, because we're trying to understand and sort things out that can't be explained. Like I was talking about before, a miracle. You can't explain a miracle. That's why it's called a miracle.
Well, with our current knowledge.
right, with a
it's quite possible in the future we could figure something out and say, oh, that's why he healed. Okay.
yeah, maybe in 500 years from now with new technology, we'll say, oh, now we can see the spontaneous healing was actually this process
Right.
going through the body was going through.
Okay,
When
I've
when
got a potentially difficult question for you, and I don't mean it to be insulting. I'm just genuinely curious. Well, actually, it's a multi-part question. First of all, do you value truth?
well, you have to define what truth is, because truth is that thing that doesn't change.
I
The
love that.
ultimate, the
Love it.
absolute truth is that thing that doesn't change. The relative truth is from the mind, the perspective.
Okay, let's frame it in the absolute.
Doesn't feel very good when it's thrown back in our face, does it, AC?
No, I honestly don't mind. I love these kind of conversations. It just normally I'm having them with a religious person who hasn't thought things through. But I mean, Sam, you seem like a person who actually has thought things through. You're not coming off as somebody who's stupid or irrational or entirely driven by emotion. I mean, the reason I'm asking the question is because it appears to me as though truth is a valuable resource to you. This is something that you are open to in whichever form it may take.
Hmm.
I guess really the meat of what my inquiry is what do you think is, if anything, a reliable pathway to that truth?
Yeah, the reliable pathway. It's really about having that direct experience of who you are. And that's usually like a typically here when I take people through my process is like a deep meditation, a deep sense of peace. That's usually getting them a direct experience of who they really are when I can take them beyond their thoughts and into who they really are. And I just thought of something right behind me is a sky. That is the perfect analogy. The sky does not change. The clouds, as the situations of light, the thoughts, the sky doesn't intertwine with the clouds. The sky remains the sky. That is us. We are the clouds. Our thoughts, our experiences is the clouds, but we will always be the sky, that energy. So it's about having that direct experience of being the sky, being that energy, being in this place of peace, of just knowing that all is well.
So if I were to have a personal experience that were to lead me to a conclusion that perhaps would contradict your own, what would you have to say to that?
Yeah, I say that's very possible because we're all seeing things through a different lens. We all have this brain that is interfering no matter how much we try to put it aside, it's still coloring our world as we see it. It's still going to create an opinion and it's going to form a judgment. That's what the mind does. So, yeah, that there is there is no real way to describe truth because I even think Buddha spent like a long time speaking about what truth was not, or because it was just like you couldn't explain it. It's beyond words.
I guess it's also possible that it would be different for everybody because your life path, your life decisions, your life consequences have led you to where you are now, have led you to that opportunity to have the open mind and feel that person sitting beside you. Somebody else may have just thought, oh man, that was probably just me because I kind of got like a little nerve thing going on in my leg or whatever the situation was. So somebody who couldn't see that you did might see something different, and their path is meant to be something else.
Right, absolutely. So I felt that somebody sitting next to him was like, oh, I must have been jumping around. The bench might have been have a broken leg or whatever, and something shifted. They could have a different experience. For me, it was a person sitting there, but for somebody else, it could be a broken bench. Absolutely.
I'm kind of sitting here, I'm listening to you, and I'm really like taking to heart these ideas you're putting forward about how our mental state kind of shapes the way we process, the way we perceive, and ultimately interpret things to be true. Now I'm picturing myself standing in front of a mirror, right? I mean, to me, I look a certain kind of way. That's how I always see me, is this effectively reverse image. Now, when I see a photograph of myself where that image isn't flipped, I think, wow, I look really fucked up in that photo. But that's not like anything, like I don't look wrong in the photo. I look how everybody else sees me. I just don't look how I see me. So I could see how what's factually correct may not actually be as carved in stone as I might have previously believed, which is kind of
Right.
shaking me to my foundations here, and I don't like it.
Right. As knowledge grows or truth grows, you can say too, because at one time they thought the Earth was flat. Then they discovered it was cylinder, but our understanding evolves as we evolve.
So what do you say to that, AC?
Well, it's a family-friendly show, so I think I'm gonna No, it's not often that I'm because I mean I am an open-minded person. I mean a lot of people think that I'm not, but I very, very much am
Mhm.
open to the idea of changing my perspective in the light of new information and new ways of looking at things. That being said, I'm not like super anxious to change my mind all the time. I'm not like it's not like I'm unattached to my conclusions. It's just I'm not going to cling on when it doesn't make sense to cling on to them anymore. And right now, I'm kind of stuck and I'm not sure like, okay, am I losing my grip on this? Do I need to just readjust it? Or is this something to let go of? Or is it something behind door number three? I don't know. I'm just stuck now with a growing list of questions and a shrinking list of answers, which I suppose is a good thing. It's not comfortable.
Yeah, because the mind likes to know. The mind is very uncomfortable with not knowing.
Right.
So it's this mental default that we get into. The mind always wants to know the answer, but it creates mental interference. It creates issues and problems because that state of unknown can really create some fear, some stress, some anxiety, which is not helpful for the body.
So how do you feel this has helped you with interconnectivity, like in society, in and amongst your peers?
It's just having more empathy and more compassion for people because they don't see that they're caught in their story and
But
their reality. So really about having that more compassion for others because to realize that they're trapped in their belief system, their conditions, and they don't see another possibility that they're creating a self-imposed limitation that doesn't need to be there. But like we talked earlier, I can't convince them that there is another way. If they're really locked into their place of being, there's nothing I can say because that's where I was when I was a very sick man. And it was the doctor's job to fix me, even though my health was getting worse. It was their job to fix me. I couldn't do anything. It's really that you can't convince somebody to change their opinion. They have to have that shift within them to see that there's another way. And sometimes, maybe it was for AC seeing his grandfather, maybe that created a shift that he was unaware of to say, hey, there is something deeper here. Maybe it opened a crack into a doorway that it didn't open before.
but sorry, I think I phrased my question wrong. How do you feel that it's helped you with your connectivity to other people and allowing yourself to be more open with your peers?
Yeah, so yeah, now I just
Or
share.
has it done it the opposite way? Sorry, has it created a block for you?
No, it doesn't really create a block, but now what really changed to me when people are telling about how bad things are for them and this, I don't really get trapped up in that story now to realize it's just their story, it's just their way of being. But for me personally, the way it's affected me was that I'm really not much so much for small talk anymore because I really realize it's not really too helpful, it's not too useful. So I'm more isolated that way and I just really just am more of a walking around with a sense of peace that I'm not really disturbed by the world so much. That's really how it's really impacted me is I'm not really so caught up and disturbed by the world so much because I know ultimately we're just energy and we're having the experience that we need to have for our growth. Even though it may be painful and difficult, it's needed on some level for you to grow and expand that you may not be aware of.
Okay, so as we come towards the tail end-ish of our conversation today, and I do want to give you some time right at the end to sort of give everybody an idea of who you are, how to find you. Jason and I each have like a couple of questions. for you. And of course, if you got questions for us, you're welcome to fire them back in our faces too. That's fine. Um, I want to run a statement by you that might seem like it's a little bit out of left field. It's not on topic what we're talking about. I'm just curious how a person with your enlightened perspective would respond to this. And it's a statement that both Jason and I have become associated with everywhere we've gone over the past several years that we've been in the public eye. And that statement is that offense is taken, it's not given.
Right, because we are creating our reality. Everything is a reflection of us, and it's our perception and our interpretation that creates the world. So you can't offend somebody, they have to be offended.
Okay, for anybody who's been listening who thinks that Jason and I have been jerks for the last several years, there you have it from a genuinely nice person who's agreeing with us. So,
Yes, so you've also heard it from somebody who is not an asshole.
okay,
Right.
so instead of me patting myself on the back, Jason, what do you got?
Yeah,
Well,
like AC, I can't offend you. You can only offend yourself.
100% agree with you, Sam.
100%. With your new perspective, if you could give somebody a fortune cookie with a one sentence personal direction, what would that one sentence be from you?
Relax, you know that you know.
God, that's powerful. Even without context, that is powerful.
Yeah, the more you relax, the more you know.
Jason, I like this guy. Can we keep him?
You know what? That makes a lot of sense because when you're in the middle of an argument and you're all pent up and you're all anxious and all the F's given are gone, you have a hard time letting somebody else in to change your mind because you're all pent up with so much energy. But when you sit down and you have a conversation with the exact same topic, that's when you're receptive.
Mhm.
That is very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so the key to life is to relax and to realize that you know the answer you seek.
Is there an answer you think? How do I put this? You say you know the answer to pretty much to what you seek.
Yeah.
How does one find the path to that answer?
Is by learning to relax and
Oh,
deeply connect with that greater essence within themselves.
but what if you don't know the question? How do you find where you want to go? How do you know what to look for?
Oh, you're trying to look for, okay, if you're looking for the question, so if you're looking for the question, you have to say, okay, I'm facing this situation. And if we don't like that challenge, that situation, so maybe the question is, how do I change this? How do I move around this? How do I move through this? So maybe it's dealing with that situation where you don't have a question, you just know it's something you don't prefer to experience. And okay, if I don't prefer to have this experience, how can I change this experience? It's by relaxing, getting out of this pent out mind that has all this confusion and doubts and too busy. If you just can relax and really come back to center, then you say, okay, there's a situation here. I don't like it. How do I move through this? And if you just deeply relax, something will come to you to do this, something different.
Do you believe this can also work with outside influences?
Well, then we get into this rabbit hole of outside influences because there's really no outside influences. It's all, I said it before, it's our projection.
Well, and I'm going to bring it into a real world situation just because I'm really pushing back now.
Okay.
You're in an alley, you're about to get mugged,
Mhm.
and the outside influence, somebody attacking you is, I'll say, pretty much beyond your control. Let's say you're a person who can't fight, is where I'm going with this.
Right.
How do you sit and meditate your way out of that one? Sorry, and I'm
Yeah,
not being facetious or
yeah.
ignorant. I'm
It's
genuinely asking.
actually a really interesting question because I never experienced this, but I live in New York City. And we
Mhm.
were in a place, now we no longer go to the Bronx because the Bronx is just getting so dangerous. Well,
Right.
I was there with my wife in the Bronx, and she's like, you didn't see that person over there. He looked really dangerous, like he was going to do something to us. But he didn't bother us. I was like, yeah, I saw him. I just sent him love. I just sent him peace and love, and he left us alone. I can't explain it. It's just what I did. I just saw this really seated character walking around. I just held my ground and just sent him peace and love. So I don't know if it would actually, because I never had a direct experience of somebody running at me. If I would just stand my ground and just send him this unconditional love and peace, if that would impact him. I think it would because we're all interconnected. I don't
Fair enough.
know.
Okay, fair enough. And for all the listeners out there, I don't know is an okay answer because sometimes it takes you a path to get there.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't know is the best answer because it allows you new possibilities.
Mhm.
Well, I will take an I don't know over a wrong I'm sure about this any day of the week.
Yeah, because you're
Okay,
usually wrong.
right. So, before we start winding down here, do either of you have any more questions that we wanted to cover, or?
Right now, I'm good. I think we should do a part two to this later on.
Yeah, that's always fun to dive deeper into this. We're just scratching the surface. It's all
Or even
good.
if we got together on a totally different topic, I think that would be phenomenal to hear some insights on other things we've talked about from you.
Yeah, I'd be really interested to discuss, the politics that's going on in the US right now and how we're creating that reality.
Ouch.
You want to get a lot of hate mail for this show.
We get a lot of hate mail anyways.
We're okay with that. We've grown a thick skin because of it.
Honestly, I mean, when we first got into podcasting, we were so desperate for feedback, and the first piece of feedback we got was hate mail, and we felt so famous when that first nasty email came in.
Yep.
So it's like you might not like us, but you know who we are. So that was validating.
Mhm.
But enough about my insecurities. Baba Sam Shelley, can you spend a few minutes telling us what is it you do? And for somebody who's looking for you and would like to connect, how would they go about that?
Yeah, so I have my website Beyond Head Trash because we're ultimately trying to go beyond the mental stories, which I call the head trash, which is all those negative stories we have about ourselves, all of our limitations, that we need to go beyond all of this mental interference, all this mental junk, and step into what I call the vibrant soul or spirit or energy. But we're just trying to go beyond our mental world and really step into who we really are. And from there, everything is possible. If we try to figure things out, it's usually going to take longer for it to happen, if it does ever happen. Because we give something attention, it actually makes it stronger, becomes a point of focus. So when people are trying to heal themselves and they're focused on healing, they usually cannot do it because it becomes a resistance in the mind. So for anything in life, if you're looking for a new job, a relationship, whatever it may be, it's not coming to be because of the mind is getting in the way. And you can be doing all these kind of things to advance that, but the mind is still interfering. It comes back to what we were saying before, relax and know that you know. Like I cannot give Jason his answer. I cannot give AC his answer because ultimately they're your answers. I can only guide you back to yourself and for you to find your way forward, your recipe, because your life is unique to you. If I tell you anything, it's only from my perspective, but it is not your answer.
Yeah, we can keep them.
Okay. Well, Baba Sam Shelley, it's been an absolute delight having you on the show. Honestly, it's a very, very short list of guests that have been on here that I really, really value and who I immediately consider they're not just that we're friends. I mean, that's such a superficial thing to say, but I do feel like we've made an important connection, the three of us today. And that's something that I will treasure moving forward. So I do thank you for everything you brought to
Thank
us
you very
today.
much, Sam.
Yeah, it's really been an honor to be here and to share my insights, my story, that a new way forward is possible for everyone. This situation, this condition is not permanent.
And of course, you're welcome back on the show anytime in the future. Just feel free to let us know. To anybody who's listening, if you got any thoughts on this conversation or any others that we've had on the show, feel free to send us an email. We'd love to hear from you in thebloodpod@gmail.com. And until next week, my friends, much love.